She used to wake up to the sound of laughter. The kitchen once filled with the voices of children running late for school, the smell of burnt toast, and her husband's morning hum. But now it's quiet. Too quiet. At 78, Margaret thought living alone would mean peace, a time to finally rest, pray, and enjoy her garden without distraction. But days turned into weeks, and the silence became heavier than she imagined. First, she loved her independence. She could cook whatever she wanted, watch her favorite shows, sing hymns aloud without judgment. But something began to change. The same walls that once made her feel safe now made her feel trapped. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a memory that refused to fade. The biggest mistake most seniors make isn't choosing to live alone. It's how they live alone. Margaret stopped checking in with friends because she thought she was bothering them. She told her daughter, "Don't worry about me, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Isolation doesn't happen overnight. It grows slowly, like dust on a forgotten shelf. Her daily prayers turned shorter. Meals became smaller. Days blurred into nights. And the phone barely rang anymore. The truth is, the human heart isn't built for loneliness. Even at 70, 80, 90, we still need love, connection, and care. One morning, Margaret slipped on her kitchen floor. No one was there. She lay there for hours whispering, "Jesus, help me." And somehow, she felt peace come over her. When her neighbor finally knocked that evening, she smiled weakly and said, "I'm okay now. God helped me get up." But deep inside, she knew something had to change. Margaret began to notice something powerful. It wasn't too late to rebuild her life. She started calling her church friends again. She joined a morning prayer group online. And she made one promise to herself: "I will not let loneliness steal my joy again." One of the biggest mistakes seniors make is believing they're a burden. But in God's eyes, you are never a burden. You are a blessing. Living alone doesn't have to mean living forgotten. It's not about who left your side. It's about who still walks with you. And Jesus never leaves. He's there in the silence, in the tears, and in the small victories, like standing up after a fall or making your favorite meal again. If you're living alone today, remember this truth. You are not truly alone. Every day is another chance to reach out, to smile again, to live again. Because with Jesus, it's never too late to find peace, joy, and love, even in the quietest home. Every day with Jesus is the best day of your life. After that fall, Margaret began to think about all the tiny choices that had led her to that lonely moment. She realized that independence without connection is a quiet trap. She had built walls so high to prove she could manage on her own that no one could reach her anymore. That's mistake number 2. Too much pride. It whispers, "I don't need help." But in reality, everyone needs someone. Pride is sneaky. It tells you you're strong while quietly draining your strength. It makes you refuse a ride to the doctor, even when your knees ache. It makes you say, "I can handle it," when you're barely holding on. Margaret learned that humility is not weakness, it's wisdom. When she finally accepted her neighbor's help with groceries, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Warmth. Someone cared. And caring felt good. The next mistake many seniors make is letting routine become a cage. They wake up, eat, sit, watch, sleep, and call it life. But life is not just existing. Life is movement, discovery, laughter, worship. It's waking up each morning and saying, "Lord, thank you for one more chance." Margaret decided to break that routine. She began walking around her block every morning. First it was just 5 minutes, then 10. Then she started greeting the children walking to school. Those little smiles were like medicine to her soul. One day, she met another senior named Helen who loved flowers. They began trading garden tips, sitting outside together sipping tea. That's how friendship begins. Not with grand plans, but with small kindness. Another mistake seniors make is living surrounded by memories but never making new ones. They keep old photos, old songs, old pain, but forget that God still writes new chapters every day. Margaret started taking pictures of her blooming roses. She even learned how to send them to her daughter by phone. It made her feel young again. Have you experienced this? Tell us in the comments below. What new memories are you making today? The next lesson came the hard way. One winter, Margaret caught the flu. She thought it was nothing, but alone in the cold house, she grew weaker. When her church friends noticed she hadn't logged into the morning prayer call, they drove over. That visit saved her life. The mistake: thinking that faith replaces community. Faith strengthens you, but God still uses people to hold you up. Even Moses needed Aaron to lift his hands. We all need someone to lift us sometimes. After that, Margaret made a promise. I'll never isolate again. Not out of fear, pride, or shame. And she kept it. She joined a local senior center. Every Thursday was story day. She shared tales from her youth. How she met her husband, how they built their first home. When she spoke, others listened, laughed, and cried. Her voice mattered again. That's the secret to living alone well. Finding purpose every day. Purpose turns silence into peace. Purpose turns empty rooms into sacred spaces. Maybe your purpose is praying for others. Maybe it's writing down your story so your grandchildren never forget. Maybe it's calling a friend who's lonelier than you. Whatever it is, do it with love. Because the biggest mistake of all is believing your best days are behind you. They're not. They're still unfolding, one sunrise at a time. If this message speaks to you, click like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe for more uplifting stories. Remember, you are never truly alone. God walks with you even when no one else can. Months after that winter scare, Margaret's life looked completely different. Her mornings were no longer silent. They were filled with prayer, birdsong, and the hum of her little coffee maker. She had learned to smile again, not because everything was perfect, but because she had finally chosen peace over loneliness. But one thing still bothered her: money. Bills, repairs, and medications all seemed to rise faster than her pension. That brings us to the next mistake many seniors make: ignoring financial stress until it becomes emotional stress. Money worries can quietly eat away at joy. Margaret used to avoid checking her bank balance because she feared the truth. But avoidance doesn't protect you. It traps you. So she decided to face it. She reached out to her church's community advisor and discovered programs for seniors that helped with utilities, groceries, and medical support. That small step removed a mountain of fear. If you're listening right now and feel that same pressure, remember: asking for help doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Comment "help" below if you know someone who might need that reminder. Margaret also learned another subtle danger of living alone: silence itself. Days could pass with no conversation except with her cat, Daisy. At first, silence felt peaceful. Then it started to echo. That's when she realized silence can become noise. Loud, heavy, and cold. So she began talking out loud. To God, to herself, even to the radio host. It may sound funny, but words create connection, even if it starts with your own voice. One Saturday, her granddaughter Lily visited. She brought a tablet and showed Margaret how to make a short video call. The first time Margaret saw her great-grandson giggle on screen, she cried. Technology, once a stranger, became a bridge. And that's another common mistake: rejecting new things because they seem complicated. Every time you say, "I'm too old for that," you close the door to something that could bring joy. But learning, even a little, keeps your brain alive and your spirit young. So pick up that phone, try that new recipe, join that online Bible group. Growth is ageless. Have you tried learning something new lately? Tell us in the comments. Your courage could inspire someone else. Over the next few months, Margaret's house began to reflect her new heart. The dust cleared, sunlight filled the rooms again, and laughter returned. Her kitchen smelled of cinnamon tea. Her living room of lavender. When friends visited, they'd say, "It feels peaceful here." And Margaret would smile, because peace was exactly what she had prayed for. Yet there was one final test. A letter came in the mail. Her oldest friend, Ruth, had passed away. For 2 days, Margaret sat quietly, feeling that familiar ache of loss. But instead of collapsing into grief, she did something different. She wrote Ruth a letter, thanking her for every laugh, every shared memory, every prayer whispered long ago. Then she placed that letter in her Bible. Grief didn't vanish, but gratitude softened it. That's another secret few talk about. Gratitude turns pain into peace. When you count your blessings, even tears can taste sweet. Now, Margaret spends Sunday evenings writing small notes to people she loves. Sometimes it's a postcard, sometimes a prayer text. Those tiny gestures ripple through hearts she may never see again. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. Living alone doesn't have to mean living empty. You can fill your world with purpose, kindness, and light, no matter your age. Before we close, here's a quick reminder. Take care of your body. Eat well, rest enough, move a little each day. But most importantly, take care of your soul. Feed it with hope, connection, and gratitude. Because the greatest mistake of all is waiting for someone else to make your life meaningful. That power has always been in your hands. If this message lifted your heart, tap that like button, share it with someone you love, and subscribe for more stories that heal and inspire. You're part of this family now, the Reset for Seniors community, where every sunrise means another chance to grow, laugh, and live fully. As spring rolled in, Margaret's garden began to bloom again. Tiny bursts of color, tulips, roses, and daffodils, peeked through the soil she once thought too dry to grow anything. It reminded her that life, like the seasons, always comes back around if you give it care and time. She often sat by the window with a cup of tea, looking out at the sky changing colors. And she thought about how many years she had lived. 86 winters, 86 chances to start over. She realized that what people call getting old is really just another kind of becoming. But one afternoon, while watching the sunset, she whispered to herself, "Why did I waste so many years being afraid of being alone?" It wasn't self-pity, it was awakening. The truth finally sank in. Loneliness had never been the enemy. Fear was. You see, that's the unspoken mistake so many seniors make. Fearing solitude instead of learning to live with it. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is an external state. Loneliness is an internal one. And when you fill your internal world with gratitude, faith, and small joys, loneliness loses its voice. Have you ever felt that kind of fear? The kind that whispers you're forgotten? Share your thoughts in the comments. Someone watching might need to see your courage. Margaret began to turn her solitude into something sacred. Every morning, she'd light a candle and thank God for one small thing. Her health, her eyesight, a good night's rest. She began to write down memories from her youth. Not to mourn the past, but to honor it. Those journals became treasures for her grandchildren. Stories they would one day read and cry over. And through that, she learned one more truth. Memories don't fade when you share them, they multiply. That's why one of the biggest mistakes older adults make is keeping everything inside. Their pain, their stories, their love. You might think no one cares, but your life is someone's legacy. Every scar you carry, every triumph you've lived through, could be the light that helps someone else find their way. So please don't hide your story. Write it down. Record it. Tell it over tea. Pass it on. Because the world needs your wisdom more than ever. Now, as the days went on, Margaret found new rhythms. She laughed more. She walked slowly but with purpose. Sometimes she'd talk to neighbors' kids over the fence, giving them cookies or advice. Those small connections became her safety net. And that's the final, silent mistake many never realize until it's too late. Not building a circle of connection before it's needed. People often wait until they're sick, scared, or desperate to reach out. But connection is like a garden. It grows if you plant it early. So call your friend today. Wave to your neighbor. Say good morning to that grocery clerk who always smiles. These little gestures stitch you into the fabric of life. Now, here's something to think about. A recent Harvard study found that older adults who maintain social ties live longer, heal faster, and report higher happiness levels, even more than those with perfect diets or exercise routines. Isn't that something? Loneliness can break the heart, but connection can heal it. Margaret didn't just survive her later years. She transformed them. And that's what this story is really about, transformation. Because the truth is, Living alone doesn't have to mean living in silence, fear, or regret. It can be the season where you rediscover who you are, the unhurried, unburdened version of yourself. If you're listening right now, take a deep breath. This isn't the end of your story. It's a new chapter waiting for you to write it differently. So maybe tonight, after this video ends, you'll tidy your kitchen, light a candle, and whisper a small prayer of gratitude. Maybe tomorrow you'll call someone you love or take a walk in the park. Maybe next week you'll start a journal, not for anyone else but for yourself. These small things add up. They heal. They rebuild. And just like Margaret, one day you'll look around your home and realize you didn't just survive living alone. You turned it into your sanctuary. So don't let loneliness define you. Let resilience, kindness, and courage be your story instead. Before you go, if this message touched your heart, tap that like button and share it with a friend or loved one who might need encouragement today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Reset for Seniors, the place where stories, hope, and wisdom meet. 'Cause your story matters here. And as we always say, every day with Jesus is still the sweetest day you'll ever know.